When I first was kind of considering becoming a pastor at Summit, the thing that I was wrestling with was this idea of, can I invite somebody to follow me as I follow Jesus? Which is like it's a big question. I was just sort of re-engaging with that question as I've been stepping into this role as lead pastor, and just kind of thinking like, okay, what's going on in my life with Jesus that is worth replicating or worth inviting somebody else into? And how could that maybe speak into where we're going as a church over this next season? For this year in particular, we're moving through the Gospel of John. There's a couple of spots where we're going to kind of pause along the way and camp out on an idea. One of those is the idea of Sabbath and rest, and the other one is the idea of remaining in the vine and the branches teaching. And there's a couple other spots that we'll camp out, but those two really tie into this idea of spiritual vitality. That phrase just means the same thing as what Jesus meant when he talked about life abundant. That's what he's promised us. When Paul writes about the fruit of the Spirit, I just want to have that needle move for me in my life, both for my own sake, my own sense of inner peace and wholeness and spaciousness, but also for how I'm going to interact with every single person in my life, my kids, my spouse, my coworkers, my neighbors. I want to be just the best version of myself that I can be. We're going to be moving one or two ways, and it's slow work either way. And it's either the slow work of the deterioration of our hearts and our inner world, and we're either kind of getting a smaller and smaller view of the world and God and ourselves, and kind of the center of the bullseye is comfort, or we're getting an ever-expanding view of God, of who he's called us to be, and of how good we can be for the people he's given us to love. Felt like it's important that we zero in on this idea of spiritual vitality. I need that, and I have a sense that maybe there's some others at Summit, maybe all of us, who would say, yeah, I think I'd like to be a person who's experiencing more of the abundant life that Jesus promised, and I want spiritual vitality. And we're only going to get there if we're willing to carve out some spaces in our lives to actually spend time with him, the one who's capable of doing that work. For my entire life, people have been talking about, the importance of a quiet time, the importance of spiritual discipline, spending time with Jesus. But I think over the last couple of years, for the first time in my life, I've understood that time is not about me striving to follow God, to connect, to achieve this thing. It's not about performance. It's just about presence. And it's about sitting somewhere long enough to actually feel that God's the one pursuing you. I just didn't ever even think that I would have that sort of intimate relationship with God, even though that's what, personal relationship with Jesus, heard it my entire life. But it's one thing you kind of hear that and you think that's what you're experiencing it, until there's like this version of it that's like, oh, wait, this is so different. I want to hear that people at a deep and existential level understand how much God loves them, and that it moves from theoretical to deeply personal. And then I want to hear that as that happens, people were amazed to see the ripple effect of that in their relationships, both the relationships that are the closest of relationships, familial, friends, maybe even somebody that you just meet for the first time, and your interaction with that person is just fundamentally different, and you know that it's different because of what God has been showing you about how much he loves you. That's what I hope.